Attilio Regolo is a legendary tier Italian destroyer that debuted in the June 2026 update as a free bureau project. You can start it now if you'd like, although I think you will have to get some wins in the lower tier Italian tech tree destroyers to fully complete it and acquire Regolo. I'll note also that in that bureau project, the reward for completing the very first segment is Giuseppe Fulgosi, Italian destroyer commander, and that is who we have at the helm for this battle. I'll show you the build here, and note, of course, in the fourth slot, we're running the reload mod, and one of Fulgosi's inspirations, along with William Sims, is the Decepticon Rumble, whose base trait increases the main battery range. Now, if you don't have Rumble, you may have the newer French destroyer commander Charles. His base trait also buffs the main battery range, so you could always substitute him if you wanted to copy my build, although I think his range buffing percentage is a little bit lower than Rumble's, but still, you'd get extra range out of him too. And I was running Rizo for a while on this ship to use the Observant Range skill to buff the reload even further, but the problem with Rizo I found was I could only get the range up to 12.2 kilometers even with the Rumble inspiration, and that didn't feel like enough range for what this ship wants to do. And I think you'll see some decent examples of that as this battle goes on. Of course, we get right into the Charlie Cap and we find an Alaska posted behind the island there. Too much of a radar threat, I think, for us to safely take this cap right off the get-go. So we're going to retreat from it. We've got a Des Moines sort of supporting us. He can shoot at the Alaska if we keep him spotted, but I don't think we're quite going to do that. There's an enemy battleship and another enemy cruiser heading around this volcano to the right-hand side of the screen, and we're going to come out here on the further flank to try to get vision of them and maybe some torpedoes in the water. Anyway, as usual, we'll run down the specs on the Regolo, and I've got a pretty good battle here for you that's really, really close, actually, and there's going to be a nice little engagement, I suppose, with that Hindenburg behind this Montana later on. We'll start with the survivability on Regolo. It's pretty good. It's got 26,800 HP base, but with the William Sims inspiration, it's 30,400. A lot of HP for a destroyer. One of the higher HP values for any DD in the game. May not quite be the top highest, but 30k is certainly a lot. The thing is a gigantic cruiser-sized vessel, though, so if you are spotted in open water, you probably want to be far away from the enemy ships. Otherwise, you're pretty easy to hit and deal a lot of damage to just with the real estate of the hull. But you can keep yourself unspotted by using the exhaust smoke screen. And Fulgosi, of course, buffs the parameters of the smoke screen, mainly by increasing the duration. We have a 44-second smoke, and now, after a little bit of a rework, Fulgosi has fully packed as a skill you can choose. He's also got Quick Fix in the first row, which allows you to still have some maneuverability with a broken engine or rudder. Without Quick Fix, I think you want to take Unstoppable as a legendary skill. But with Quick Fix, that allows you to do other things, like this fully packed, and it's pretty nice to have 5 smokes and 5 engine boosts. The engine boost is also kind of a specialized one. It gives a speed buff of 25%. But Fulgosi and the other Italian commander got the Go All Out skill, which of course reduces concealment while the speed boost is active. So we've only got a duration of 25 seconds on this engine boost because of that skill. But at the same time, it is going to lower our detectability. Our concealment right now is 6.4. I think it goes down to 5.6 with the Go All Out skill active. And that little bit less detectability for 25 seconds would allow you to potentially close the gap toward a DD that is out spotting you. So I think it's pretty useful to have. And of course, if you do find a DD, or really any ship, you can farm them with these main battery guns. There's 8 of them, 135 millimeters in size, pretty close to the Khabarovsk, for example. And with this build, we've got a comfortable 13.4 kilometer range. You could go further, I suppose, if you used the range mod in the 4th slot, but Unlike the Soviet destroyers, these shell arcs are not very flat. They get a little bit floaty at longer distances, and for that reason, I don't think it's necessary to spec into the range too much. But what I've found in this destroyer is you kind of get close to the action, you put some torpedoes in the water, then you maybe deploy a smoke, you sail away, you farm things with your guns as you go, and then you rinse and repeat. It's kind of like an ambush type destroyer in that sense. So having a little bit of extra range when you're retreating or sailing back in, that can be helpful. And the further you are away from the enemies when the smoke screen is not active shooting at them, the harder you are to hit in return. So for all those reasons, that's why I'm running this build. The reload time on these guns with the reload mod is 4.9 seconds. They shoot both high explosive and sap. High explosive downfield at the Colombo now. I think we're going to get a fire as he deploys his smoke. These HE shells do 1,950 damage. They've got a 9% fire chance, and they pen 23 millimeters of armor. So not a lot of pen there, and the fire chance, while it sounds high, I don't know, maybe I've just been unlucky. I feel like I haven't gotten a lot of fires, but those are good for when you hit a torpedo, cause a flood, they use DCP, follow up with a perma fire. You can deal some damage over time that way. But if you're not firing the HE, then you've got the sap. It does 2,750 damage, pens 38 millimeters of armor, and of course has the improved penetration angles of sap. As for the torpedoes, which we've hit 2 now, I think we're going to get more on this Colombo, who, he deployed his smoke screen, I think, so he could sail in a straight line. Not ideal when there are torpedoes coming at your hull. These things range out to 13.5 kilometers, and there are 8 of them in 2 quadruple launchers. They are the Italian sea mine torpedoes, so they're pretty slow, only 56 knots. But they've got a very quick reload time base, only 80 seconds, so they don't take all that long to cool down, and they deal a maximum simulated damage of 12,937, plus they've got a very stealthy detectability range by sea of only 1 kilometer, so you don't see them until they're practically on top of your hull. They're almost like deep water torpedoes in that sense, but probably a lot slower than any deep water torpedo you would encounter. And you can see here, too, the further you are away from the enemy ships, the more you can comfortably open water gunboat. We're testing out the Hindenburg here to see if he can hit us with the HE. He would be very dangerous for us if he could. He'd be able to shred the HP relatively quickly, and as soon as he starts really dialing in the aim and hitting us, well, we just deploy the smoke screen so we can go dark for 44 seconds, and, well, suppose if he remains spotted, we could still continue to shoot at him, but it is what it is. BA Montana looks like he's going to be sailing into our torpedoes. Pretty nice. And hopefully we can follow up with a fire from the HE. This is one of those situations where having the extra range on the guns really does come in handy, especially when you get a hit like that and a couple of floods on the BA Montana. Unfortunately, you'll see the fire chance is not always the most reliable, and the floaty nature of the shells at longer distances makes it a bit challenging to dial in the range when the target is maneuvering. I don't think we're going to get any fire on this BA Montana until the last possible second. Probably not worth talking about the AA all that much. It's only got an aggregate rating of 30, and I think the furthest distance the AA shoots is 3.7 km, where it only has an average DPS of 77. I don't think you're going to be shooting down too many planes with this thing. Now, the maneuverability, maximum speed of 42.2 knots. I think that is buffed, maybe with the commander skill and the speed flag in the 4th slot. But it's a very fast destroyer, much like the Soviets. And the rudder shift time is 6.2 seconds, kind of slow, a bit like the Soviets. As for the concealment, 6.4 kilometers on this build, which is not great. But of course, with the go all out skill, we can reduce that to, I think, 5.6 when necessary. But I found that this destroyer is a pretty fun one. And as you can see from the results of this battle so far, the damage output in this match anyway is pretty good. But I'll tell you, I don't think every match is going to look like this. I haven't found that this destroyer is the most effective at the tier, but it is really fun to play. It offers you a unique playstyle that none of the other tech trees do. It's almost like I suppose the way I would characterize it is it's like the Khabarovsk in a sense, where it can be a really good gunboat, but it's also a bit like the British destroyers because it has many short duration smoke screens. The difference is this thing can move at full speed in a smoke screen, whereas the British have to be totally stationary. And that allows for a lot of versatility and a lot of ways to deal damage between these long range torpedoes and the main battery guns. And I suppose if you're in the right situation, this destroyer can turn the tide of the battle. You see here we have a 3v3 with a little over 4 minutes left to go in the match. The enemy team is busy flipping the Bravo cap, where we've got two battleships which can kinda sorta get shots on the Hindenburg that were perma spotting for them. But if he reverses behind this island, I think he's going to be shielded from them. And clearly, his friendly destroyer and other friendly cruiser are on the other side of the map, providing vision of those two battleships for him. So, what we really need to do, especially since I think the red team is going to take the Bravo cap, is we need to get rid of this Hindenburg ASAP and then get into this cap and flip it. He's reversing behind the island, but since we've got a smoke screen ready to go, we can use the tried and true tactic of baiting the enemy ship to turn broadside to your torpedoes so that you can sink them. Here we go. We fire the main battery guns with the sap at the Hindenburg. You can see it can still pen him and deal some decent damage even as he's angled. And as expected, he turns broadside to get all of his firepower on target, beaches himself, and now has to reverse directly into the path of our torpedoes. He's got so little HP that we could probably finish him off, but it's probably safer to use one of the last two remaining smokes we have to prevent him from seeing us and dealing damage, and then just wait for the torpedoes to do their job. There he goes. We're able to get him off of this cap, and that means we can get into the cap. Not a moment too soon, either. You can see out there in the distance, one of those battleships is reasonably healthy, but they're dealing with torpedoes from the enemy Shimakaze, and that one that is entering the cap right now, not so healthy. There's also a Smolensk on the enemy team, which can farm that little HP in a very, very quick time frame, which I don't think he's going to have any problems doing that since the enemy Shimakaze is around there to perma-spot those two targets. So we're expecting that battleship to go down. The point situation is in our favor at the moment, but if that battleship does go down, well, it's a big swing. So we need to get into this cap, flip it, start accruing points from it, and I think even if that battleship does go down, then by flipping this cap, we'll still be slightly ahead on points, and if it's two caps versus two caps, we're accruing points at the same exact rate as the red team. And so as long as that remains the case, and then I and the last remaining battleship stay floating, we should be able to stay ahead of the red team on points. There's the Smolensk. He's clearly built for extra main battery range, so we're able to spot him, although I don't think our two teammates are able to shoot back at him. I suppose I maybe should ping the comm wheel and tell this guy to get back, because I don't think he's going to accomplish anything by sailing into the cap other than sinking. Then again, I suppose his presence in the cap will stop the enemy from accruing points from it, so maybe that is instrumental to the outcome of this battle. Anyway, we played this flank the entire battle, cleared out that Hindenburg with the torpedo move there, and now finally we get the reward of actually flipping the cap. I don't think it comes a moment too soon either, because if I recall correctly, this GK is going to go down. We're using the perceptive skill on Fulgosi, so I assume it's pointing at the Shimakaze right now. He's relatively close to us. We deploy Go All Out with the engine boost, maybe a little bit too early, and it reduces our concealment to 5.7. So I was a little bit off, but you see, that can help you close the gap between enemy destroyers if necessary. Not going to be necessary here. The GK does go down as expected, but we're still ahead of the enemy team by 10, 11 points, I'm not quite sure. Enough to win the battle, so long as the Shima doesn't sink me or the friendly battleship, and I don't think they're going to in the next couple of minutes. Really close game, really fun match to play in the Regolo. And I will say, too, for what it's worth, I think the perma camo on this ship is one of the nicest looking Italian camos in the game. I love the aesthetics of it. It just looks really cool with the gray and the black and the, I suppose, green or yellow color. It just looks really nice. And it's a fun ship to play. Unique play style, run and gun type thing. Sail in, ambush stuff with the torpedoes and the guns, sail out with the smoke screen, use go all out now to close the distance, shred enemy DDs with the sap. Of course, it can hurt a lot. It's just a fun overall ship to play. Probably not the most effective destroyer at the tier, but certainly an interesting one, and one where, in the right circumstances, you can get some pretty good games and even help carry a match. Over 3,000 base XP there, no planes either, so that's all battle impact on surface ships, no aircraft carriers. So yeah, nice match in the Regolo, I would say. Fun ship to play. Definitely a Bureau project worth completing, in my opinion. Hope you enjoyed the video. If so, give it a thumbs up. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. And I'll see you next time. Goodbye.